right, we're talking vampires. We're talking about a movie that was now remade 3 times. So is the third time the charm for this remake of Salem's Lot, based on the Stephen King book, of which I think needs a completely new title after finally watching this. I don't know if we could talk about that in a second too, but we're going to talk about the 2024 version of Salem's Lot on Max, up next on the Entertainment Jungle. All right. Yes, this is a little irrelevant. All right, so let's start off. I want to say I think it's funny that Stephen King is an author who writes about an author, which I think he does multiple times.
Right, would you know?
But yeah, yes, exactly right. We know. But Salem's Lot, as IMDb writes, an author returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot in search of inspiration for his next book, only to discover that the townspeople are being attacked by a bloodthirsty vampire. Kind of true. So, yeah, right? So, let's get some overall thoughts before we jump into this one. We're going to start with Ryan the Lion. What do you got for me?
So this was a pretty forgettable movie for me. I didn't really keep my interest. I kind of forgot what happened immediately after I watched it. Not a great Stephen King movie, in my opinion. Although his books are tough to make into movies, but yeah, I guess I tried 3 times, and I don't know if it was the charm.
I mean, his books, I would say, are tough to make into movies. Everyone always says the book is much better. I also have not read this book, but I have a feeling the book is better. But Walter, what do you got for us? What are your overall thoughts?
I'm actually not in agreement with Ryan the Lion.
Again?
I actually really didn't enjoy this movie, so it is very memorable to me because of how bad. And I went into this completely cold, didn't do any research, didn't even. It's called Salem's Lot, so for whatever reason, I thought it was about witches. Obviously, was wrong, and just everything about it. It was a no for me, and I was trying to let it go and just enjoy the ride, but I had a lot of issues, and maybe you guys can help me with them.
Ooh, unlikely.
Ooh, I don't know. First of all, saying that you forgot it as you're watching it is not good. I also agree. It starts with the title. Unless they go into it in the book, I also originally thought it was about witches, but I knew it was about vampires because I have to do a little pre-research before our show. So, yeah. I will say I liked the cinematography of this movie. I kind of liked a lot of the looks of it, and we'll go through it. As a vampire movie, I think it fell flat, which is say, like, it was nothing special about this, and now this could have been because this was written, I'm assuming, in the 70s, because that's when the first one was made. So that could possibly be it. Like, when it came out, you're like, oh, this is all new vampire territory. But at this point in the game, we've seen it all. So I think you kind of need to mix it up a little bit, right?
But even if
new territory then.
But even if it was, it wouldn't matter. It was just so bad that even if this was new or not, it's like, what the hell is going on? The whole time, you're just like, really? That's how you're reacting? And was this supposed to be more of a satire-ish type vampire movie or serious? Because I felt like it didn't know. Like at times, everything was like sort of kind of funny-ish, and then others was like really serious. So I didn't know.
Yeah, the book was come out in 75. To answer your question, I don't know. There's a lot of points in this movie where things happen like out of it, like completely like crazy shit happens, and the actors are like, okay.
Dude, that's
right?
the whole movie. No one reacts appropriately to anything.
Which made no sense.
Can I ask something? Maybe I missed it, but does anyone know when this movie takes place?
I was asking the same question.
It has to be the 70s, right? Look, I mean, the Cars and like the drive-in movie, like the Cars alone, like everyone's car is super old.
So
I thought it was current time at first,
No. Oh, I see.
and
Well,
then
Give
saw
you
the.
a year, but like
They didn't.
the cars are old, and no one has a cell phone, so.
So I thought the same thing. I also thought it might have taken place in current times, but this town is like one of those old-fashioned towns, and they all have old cars. But I was
That's what I thought.
There's no chance that every single person happens to have a car from the very same decade 50 years ago.
Remind me to talk about the cars later when we get further down the movie.
Oh, there is a part about the cars
Oh, we might be on the same page.
that I think we might be talking about. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little under the weather today, but I'm gonna push through it because I want to talk. There's a lot of little things about this. Although we do talk about spoilers, I will put our spoiler up. Let's just kind of go in order because I really don't have a rhyme or reason for a lot of this stuff. But like, I want to know. It starts off. What did you think of the actor or the creepy guy, or as I guess in vampire terminology, the familiar, right? The guy who, this movie starts off with a very creepy guy, like his name is Stryker, and he is just talking about this crate that he loves so much. And I'm like, all right, super weird way to start this movie. But then comes my first question. They get the crate, and then they accidentally drop it, okay? Does that release the vampire, or is he going to release it anyway? Does that breaking the crate have any significance to this? Because
I don't think it.
They linger on it, and I'm curious if that was purposeful or just like, what was the point of that?
I don't think there was a point at all. There was a lot of stuff in this, though. There was no point to it, but he was going to release it. That was his whole plan, right? He was being controlled by this thing, wasn't he? So, like, it made no sense. And then they didn't really talk about those two guys. Did they get away? Like, what happened to them? Unless it went over my head.
Oh, you mean the guys carrying the crate?
Yeah.
I thought they just went back to the town and.
Which it doesn't matter if they did or not, but I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to know. I thought the vampire would have got him.
So that's kind of what I mean about that. Like, there's a lot of scenes like this. That's what we're gonna get into throughout. But like, all right, they're building tension. They got this cool shot. They're like, I don't want to go in this creepy house, and then they drop the crate, and then they do a close up, and then nothing happens. And then it's like, oh, okay, what was the point of that scene? There's a lot like coming up like soon. Actually, there's a scene, excuse me, with the priest in jail, which I also understood like maybe later on why, but it didn't pay off. I'm assuming they were trying to get to the point like he's a drunk, so no one's gonna believe him when he's telling.
No, it did pay off later.
At the dinner scene.
Why?
No, when he goes against the vampire, the main one. I forgot what the main vampire's name is.
Drunk before that.
Well, no, but the whole point of it is to show that he is like not like an actual priest, and because of that, he was not able to go against the vampire.
Oh, actually, okay. In the church, when the glowing cross died on him, right?
Yeah. So if he was actual, doing what a priest would do, following his faith, he probably would have been able to fight him and beat him. But that's what I took out of it. Going, oh, you're just a drunk. You're pretending to be a priest.
Oh.
You lost your faith. You can't do anything to me.
I thought it was at the dinner table with the young kid's family, where he was trying to tell them that like Mark's family, when they're trying to tell him that there's vampires, and the fact that the dad's like no, and then walks outside. I thought it was like, oh well, no one believes the drunk priest, but
it could have been both.
Huh? Interesting.
Yeah, but they had established him as a drunk before the prison scene. When the girl's talking about everyone in their cars, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's the car where the priest is just getting blitzed." Like,
oh, they really wanted you to know that he was a drunk.
But I did know.
Just in case you forgot.
Told me directly.
They did.
That's like the one thing that I knew about him.
They're like, just in case you forgot, here you go. Here's another drawn out scene.
Yeah, that was kind of my point. Was just like, I'm like, all right, that seems to be a waste of a scene, and then it kind of comes back. Not really. That's
Were
a
any
lot
of the scenes not a waste of a scene?
well, like if. Well, I guess we could kind of, but the scene at the drive-in in the beginning, right, when they talk about hiding in the trunks, that kind of pays off at the end. At least it comes back into like the story, right?
Because the girl's in there?
No, all the
Yeah.
vampires are hiding in there at the end.
That's the You know what? I don't know if that's a payoff. That's like stupid foreshadowing of, and makes you go, why?
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because it's easier than having like a ton of coffins.
Did they even need coffins? Couldn't they just stay in the house in the dark? Did they need a coffin?
Because they weren't
Also, these vampires
daywalkers.
could go out in the day, right? So like they could kind of sleep anywhere.
Well, I don't think so. That didn't they get burned up when they hit the sunlight?
I don't know. The main guy went out in daylight. That's like he was just outside being a regular person.
What main guy? Which the main?
Oh no, that's the familiar. That's
yeah,
like the,
he wasn't a vamp.
He wasn't a
He was-
vampire.
Oh.
Like the mom at the end
yeah.
becomes. That's what they call it, a familiar, like the human servant of the vampire to do the day walking stuff.
Wait,
That's how I got it.
the dude from Game of Thrones, he was the familiar?
Yes,
Yeah.
he was not
Oh,
a
man.
vampire.
I didn't.
Oh
even
wow, that went over. That
notice
you didn't even
that.
get that. Oh
well,
boy.
like I said, I was kind of distracted watching this movie, so like I would look away for a minute and then like look back up and be like, huh, that doesn't make sense. So he was.
I was working the whole time,
whole.
and I was catching some of this stuff.
So I don't know what's worse, watching it and just like not absorbing it, or half watching it and absorbing it. I don't know which one's worse. All right, well let's talk a little bit about like when you first start seeing the vampire. I guess it's when he kills, or when he kidnaps the boy, the young brother. But my question is, all right, so I get it. So the creepy guy is chasing him in the woods, gives the kid to the vampire, and but then who kills the older brother? Like, how does the older brother become a vampire? Does the younger brother get him in the backyard?
What do you mean the backyard? Is he got him right when
Right.
he was digging in the grave? You guys were not paying attention on
Wait a
this.
minute, I watched this whole movie. He was in
He
the
was-
grave?
He was the one doing the grave, wasn't he? And then he opens up the grave because he heard the boy, and then he.
No. That's
No.
So
That's not the
kid
brother?
in that grave is the
No.
older brother.
The brother is the kid from The Boys. That brother.
Yeah. The two kids are like almost the same age. That older dude
Oh.
was just some dude that worked in the cemetery.
He was
Yeah.
He was walking. Oh yeah, he was outside in the backyard, and then
Yeah.
it had to been the main vampire. that
Oh,
got
okay.
him, right?
So
Well-
we just don't know.
Because you saw him get picked, grabbed, and
That's what I mean.
you
We just don't know.
see him get caught
how-
and grabbed.
That was the younger brother. That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to
No.
say. I'm trying to figure out. No?
All right, hold on. There's 3 brothers, right? 3 in total,
No.
or 2?
No,
Two.
two.
There's 2. So the little one gets caught.
The older one was
Yes.
the kid from the boys, and the younger
Yes,
one,
okay.
the kid that like immediately goes missing.
Yes, he immediately goes missing. He's the sacrifice to, I'm assuming, to get the vampire to give him energy and bring him
Yes.
back, right? That was the
Okay.
whole point. Then the boys comes out into the backyard, and then he's calling for his brother. Then you see him get picked up into the air,
Yes.
right? And you have to assume it was the main vampire.
Oh, I mean, sure. That was my
Who else
question.
would it be?
I
that's
think that's probably right. I missed that scene. I missed a lot of scenes in this movie.
my question was, does it make sense if it's the main vampire, or did his younger brother get him? And that was my question. Was like,
Well, they explained it couldn't have been him because he was a sacrifice. He wasn't turned into a vampire, right?
oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense if that's what it is.
I mean, it doesn't make
Glad
any sense to
Walter
me.
Paid attention to this movie because I.
But the thing-
didn't know
I-
any of this.
But I wasn't. I was working, so
You clearly
So-
were. You have all the information. I didn't know any of this.
you
I didn't
hated
even
it that
know
much.
there was a vampire other than the that wasn't a vampire.
You thought he was a vampire the whole time.
I know. I was like, oh, so that dude's the vampire, I guess.
I mean, the other clue is that he gets his brain bashed out and he dies. So obviously he couldn't have been a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Missed that scene.
You missed that scene. That is something else though we need to talk about.
I didn't know that dude. I thought that dude was the vampire, so I thought he was still around until the end.
So the little kid, the one that like the kid hero here, he was okay with murder, like no problem
Yes.
whatsoever.
Yes.
He bashes this guy's brain, and then like nothing to it. I was like, really? That's your reaction? Like,
I wanted to talk about that this kid was so gung-ho, not about like killing vampires, just about he's like, I know exactly what I have to do now, and it's bash people's heads in. He even towards the end, he's like, the adult was like, where are you going? He's like, I'm gonna go kill him, and the adult's like, okay. there was no question in this kid's mind what to do.
It was just awkward
and that
and
kid was
weird.
way more effective than any of the adults.
Oh,
Yeah,
he was way better.
Yeah.
His even character arc of like loving Houdini and then getting out of like a trap upside down. Like I was like, okay, like
which he should have died because all the blood rushed to his head because he was there pretty long. I think it was overnight, wasn't it? Because it was daytime.
Long?
Well, it was daytime by the
That's
time
true. That's
so
true.
he should have died.
Maybe he learned from Houdini how to stop his blood from rushing to his head when he's tied upside down. But yeah, that kid was great. He was super okay with murder of like almost anything.
Didn't even phase him whatsoever.
Yeah, because even if you get the adrenaline to murder, you would think it would have some kind of emotional toll on you for a second or so. Like,
I mean,
oh my
he wasn't
god,
even, like that upset when his parents died.
that I was just gonna bring that up too.
It was just kind of like, oh man, we have to make sure my parents don't die, and then they go there and his parents immediately die, and the priest is just like, run, and he's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, he's like all he can think about is revenge. Then after that, it's like,
When the dad walked out, I was like, it reminded me of like an old joke. Like he was watching a train. He knew what was gonna happen, and he was so gung ho for everything else. But he's like, "Aw, shit, my dad's just gonna die, and I'm gonna. I guess I'll avenge him. I guess." But yeah, that's. I did like his character actually, but there were points where I'm like, "All right, you're right." I don't know. Actually, I wonder if anyone out there can answer. Was this like a true horror movie, or was this more of like a satire? Because maybe we're all interpreting this wrong.
probably, definitely interpreted wrong.
Because if this was a straight up horror movie, we didn't even scratch the surface on questions here. But maybe it was like kind of supposed to be a twist, and we're just not getting it. We're all missing it. I don't know. So
It's possible. I missed like half the scenes apparently.
all right, well let's get into so the vampires are attacking.
A horror mystery, it looks like.
What mystery?
Is that what IMDb rates it as? A horror mystery?
Yeah.
A thriller, horror mystery, vampire. Wait, vampire horror is a specific horror? All right.
Wait.
So the vampires are coming. They finally believe that the teacher, who actually was also a cool character, because he says, like, if you, like when he was like, when you're beating up a kid, if he says uncle, you have to let him go. Not like,
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just like.
Oh, that
keep
also
your
didn't
word.
play out to anything.
Yeah.
Like the kid, you spend all that time with him fighting, and you make him out to be this annoying bad kid, and then he never came back, did he?
Bully, right?
Yeah, he never came back, right?
In other versions of this, that bully would have been turned into a been
Yes.
like, oh, we hate this kid, he's a bully, so the vampire eats him, but that didn't happen either. So,
Or he would
the
be.
vampire, and the kid would bash his brains out.
Yes,
and then
that's
it would
exactly.
be like, say, I'm not going to tell you to say uncle. There's your connection,
Yeah.
right? And then right.
Yeah. But
yeah,
no.
that didn't. But here's my biggest question. I think we're right in the middle of this, right? My biggest question. The teacher finally figures out that there's vampires, okay? The gravedigger kid comes in and he's attacking the teacher or whatever, and then he fights him with the cross or whatever that scene is. He then calls the author for help. So why would he call the author, who was new in town, who maybe was, I know they became friendly, but why is that do authors help fight vampires because they know the lore? Like, why was that the first call? Or is that like a dumb movie moment? Like, he's our main character, so he's obviously gonna get called, but it didn't seem to fit. Am I reading into that wrong?
I feel like he probably thought that guy would believe him.
I assume so too.
I think that's the reason. Like, I think it's like, oh my god, these are vampires. Who's gonna believe in vampires? Oh, this guy totally would. He's been like suspicious about something going on.
Yeah. Just because I'm an author, I'm going to believe in vampires? Yeah. Like, that's so dumb.
Actually, the teacher did more work. He went to the library and he started he did all the research on vampires. He seemed to be like the main character in this town, to be honest.
Well, you didn't see the
But
behind
he
the
didn't have any friends to call about the vampire except the new guy.
That's
Yeah,
true.
It's a little sad he had no friends.
There was a hidden scene where you saw him going through the list of people. So he really did go to other people. That's the only really way it makes sense. He went to the sheriff, who obviously was a deadbeat, didn't want to do anything.
Yeah.
He started to go to the priest, like, well, you lost your faith, so I'm going to go to somebody else. And then this was all there. You didn't see it?
I saw like a third of this movie, man.
I know, I'm just kidding. Obviously, none of that happened, but
What a
That's
great
how I'm
deleted
rationalizing.
scene. You just made up a perfect scene to connect the dots to this whole thing.
yeah, instead of just randomly going to some random guy who also believes him,
Interesting.
which didn't make sense that some of them were so like, yes, I believe it, and then other ones were like, no, I don't believe it. It's like, do you not see people dying or disappearing rapidly?
That happens in a lot of these movies. Now, I guess in real life, if there was like a lot of people just dying around you, I'm assuming you wouldn't assume vampires right away.
But I would-
Vampires.
But yeah,
But I think the logical thing is like someone's knocking on the door. I think I would be a little skeptical. Like it might be a vampire. Like I don't know if vampires exist, but I'm not taking that chance.
Yeah. Anytime someone knocks on my door, I assume it's a vampire.
Holding throw a cross in their face, like hey.
Oh, I don't have the faith for that.
did you guys know that vampires had like mind control?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a Dracula thing.
Oh, that's where I first saw it. Okay. Because I thought that was added for this, and I was like, I think I've seen it somewhere else, but I figured I didn't. I do want to talk about an actual cool scene.
Yeah.
I did like the scene in the morgue. I thought that was kind of cool. There was some parts I didn't like. But I did like the scene in the morgue. I wanted to know what you thought of it, like the imagery. The popsicle stick cross that didn't work.
Oh, that scene. I'm like, what scene in the morgue? Yeah,
I thought
that was stupid. Like, the popsicle sticks, really? And then they're saying prayers and stuff. It's like, how come the other guy didn't have to do prayers, or do you have to do prayers to make popsicle sticks into a cross? Is that how that works?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's right.
Oh, I missed that scene.
You missed the popsicle stick scene? You gotta bind it.
It was I thought it was like such a cool scene, but the person under the cloth was like, wasn't it like an old lady? Like, wasn't it like a person that you wouldn't assume would turn like ham on all the people there? I don't know.
I mean, it was the boy's mother, so you
Yeah.
knew she was gonna turn.
Vampire has like super strength and stuff, right? So it doesn't matter if they're old or young.
Well, we did review a movie a while ago that was about that with like Jamie Foxx, where he was fighting vampires and the old woman kicked the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So
But in this one, she wasn't really that strong. I mean, the other old lady was holding her back, wasn't she, for a little bit
that's
by
true.
herself?
But
So
the
she
other
wasn't,
part
like,
I wanted to bring up was when she got bit, right? So she got bit, the doctor,
Yes.
and then she injected herself with anti-poison.
I had no idea what she injected herself with.
Okay. Man, we're not
Yeah.
answering any questions during this episode,
def-
are we?
Definitely not. We're just pointing him out. My question is, you are the group that actually believes in vampires. You know how to defend yourself from vampires. Maybe not the doctor, because she doesn't believe at that
Correct.
moment in time. But the guy and the girl, you do. You don't bring anything with you to protect yourselves. And you sit there and go, wait a minute, what are we going to do if she turns? Really? That's what happens here?
Also, vampires don't turn. Sometimes it takes them a while sometimes. So they could have left. Like,
or put up a camera, so you're not even in danger. Just like, oh look, she got up.
They all just kind of got sick first.
In this, but they did.
And then after a day of that, then they are just like, oh, I need blood.
Yeah, but they say that, right? It was like it could be minutes, but then it could be days.
Right? For you to like a fully turn, I think that was
someone said it. I don't remember which
throwaway line.
I don't know if anyone knew the exact science in this one.
We don't. They were trying to explain things, and I think by explaining it, it made it worse.
Ha!
Well, we didn't have any characters that were knowledgeable enough to really explain anything.
Just a teacher.
Sort of.
But even still,
but like all his knowledge,
he couldn't do anything.
In the last few hours of research. Like we didn't have like a Van Helsing or someone that I've been chasing vampires for decades. I know all about them. Like he's like a character that could give us like some sort of information that was reliable.
So oh no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the little kid in his comic book, right? He was reading comic books to learn about vampires.
The child did read comic books.
But he also did that after the situation. He didn't have that knowledge previous.
That's what I mean.
So,
like these guys, like all their knowledge was based on like, oh my god, they're vampires. Let's learn as much as we can, like in the next couple hours, and then go fight them.
So here's a question for you. First of all, the love interest, right? The girl who was a realtor. Why was she a realtor? Susan. Like, what was the point? Like, that didn't pan out either. She could have been a librarian, or she could have been something else that maybe had a loose connection to vampires if you didn't want to spoil it too early. Or this writer could have been a science fiction writer. Not necessarily vampires, but a reason for him to know all this stuff beforehand. Like, it's not like there's a big reveal. The plot of the movie is the town is attacked by vampires. So it's not like you're spoiling anything by having these two main characters have a connection with it prior, right? Like, what was the point of her being a realtor in this? Or that whole scene, really?
She's been a main character. I feel like she gets got pretty early.
She lasted 75%.
Huh?
A while.
Yeah, 75% of it she lasted, I think. And then she turns at the end.
I was a little surprised that she turned at the end, but once again,
because they didn't inject a magical whatever into her.
Magical whatever.
I mean, she got bit somewhat shortly after like things started popping off.
She didn't get bit until near the end, because it's right before they were in the church and fighting everybody off.
Yeah, because he had to leave her. Well,
she went back to her mom's house. That's where she got bit, right?
Yeah, because she found out the mom was working for the vampire.
Yeah.
Working for the vampire. What a dumb sentence. Although, there was a movie recently that did this well, which was with Nicolas Cage. Renfield.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen that, that is a very good a very good modern interpretation of a vampire, and they're familiar. Yes.
Yeah.
So just FYI, if you're liking this genre, I would say check that one out.
Did we review that one?
No, we were going to.
Okay.
We didn't talk about
it. I don't think I don't.
It was good.
I don't think I saw it.
So let's change gears a little bit. Well, unless Walter, do you want to bring up more questions before I ask if you liked anything about this movie?
I mean, there's nothing I like the movie, so you don't even have to ask that question. I don't even think Ryan saw the movie enough to even like anything.
Oh, he said like 15% of it.
That's why That's why you thought she got bit so early, because you're like the timing of the
It was
movie.
like
You
a
had no idea.
15-minute movie, and she got bit like 10 minutes.
It wasn't a 2-hour movie. No, not at all. The cars,
Yeah.
right? These were old cars, right? Like very old cars.
70s,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
60, 70.
They made it a point to show that he had to grab a key to open the trunk of a car, right?
Yeah.
So that my assumption was all of them had locks. Back in the 70s, they didn't have what we have now, which were
Childproof.
yeah, right? So how did they get out? Every single one of them got out. I'm like, that's impossible. They would have been locked in there, right? There's no way they would have got out. There's no,
So when you shut the trunk, it automatically locks, is what you're saying.
right? Isn't that? I mean, I
Therefore,
haven't been in one of those cars in forever, but I'm pretty positive there was no child lock or whatever the stupid latch is for you to get out.
I feel like that's probably correct.
It's a stupid thing to nitpick on, but I'm like, that doesn't make any sense if you took the time to show us that he was going to use a key to unlock it.
So, I mean,
That's fair.
we could be wrong about cars in general, but yes,
That's true.
your
I don't
theory.
know. I think that seems accurate. Like, think about like old movies. Like, if you lock someone in a trunk, they're stuck in there.
That was a trope of movies for a while.
That was like a common trope.
Like-
Like, unless you had
Yeah.
a key, you were stuck in there.
Even Goodfellas or something, right? Like the mob
Mhm.
movies, they put him in the trunk
Goodfellas,
and they
Back to
can't.
the Future. Like, remember he
Back
gets
to the
locked in the
Future,
trunk
yeah.
and you have to like break in to get him out.
So technically, that scene should have happened where the sun is coming down all slowly and everyone's just banging
It's stuck. Take it out.
in the
Or
trunk.
there should have been a scene where like they turn some like mechanic or something, and he's in there installing like levers in all of the trunks.
Yeah, like this is a big plan. Like, what was the plan? Like, why did they have to hide in the trunks specifically, except to call back the beginning where she says the whole town could fit in this parking lot? Like that's
the whole
right?
point. That was
the whole
stupid.
point. Because you're not in an
there
enclosed
has to be-
environment. Was there
so,
another
like, this
reason
book-
for that?
This book was written
Ah.
in the 70s. So if this was written in the 70s, then there must have been a way to get out of trunks. Right? Like if that concept is from the original book, then it would be from like written at the time that like modern cars didn't exist.
So
I don't know.
even if we're wrong about cars in general, right? Which fine, I will say that I'm not 100% sure how cars from the 70s worked. What was the point of having everybody in the drive-through?
There was definitely no reason for that.
Like, there's no, that doesn't, you're usually
the
in these
drive-thru.
movies, yeah, they might have liked watching a movie, but usually in these movies, you're stuck in a confined space instead of being able to run away.
2001. That's
when they had the child releases.
yeah.
All right.
So that's yeah. That was per Google, if that's accurate.
Way ahead of his time.
I guess so.
They
So-
they invented it because of this movie. They're like, we can't have vampires trapped in our.
It makes no sense.
They weren't trapped.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what gave them the idea. It's like, yo, those vampires are going to just like get out of the trunk. You should make it so that people can get out of trunks.
That's true.
Thank you, Stephen King.
Like,
So when it comes to vampire lore, if you use a stake to stab one of them in the heart, are you not allowed to use it again? Do you have to go grab another one? Is it? No, like, I'm being serious here.
No, it's a stick. You can stab yourself.
Exactly. So it confused me because they never reused it, right? They always used one, and then they made the stupid lines like, how many stakes do you have? It's like, you only technically need one, or
Yeah.
one for everybody.
I only have two hands, so like at most two could possibly be useful at any given time.
Yeah, just open trunk, stab, open trunk, stab, open trunk, stab. Like,
Wait a minute.
What?
When you stab
What?
them in the heart, don't they disintegrate?
I feel like they didn't in this one, right?
Did
they not in this one?
Human.
yeah, it looked like they turned into a human, and you committed murder, and that's
Yeah, I was also gonna say like it looks like they all turned back into humans, so like you don't even have any evidence that like anything happened here other than you went around murdering everyone in this town.
their teeth went back to normal, their eyes went back to normal. You're
Yeah.
like, huh?
I was like, oh man, what a great plot to have this dude just in prison for the rest of his life.
That would have been awesome.
I mean, that has to be how this ends, right? How are you going to explain a town full of dead people and you walking away like, oh man, they were vampires. They clearly aren't.
He set half of them on fire, and then the other half he stabbed him in the heart.
That was the only cool part of this movie. Like, they all turned back into humans at the end, so it's like, oh man, he just looks like a straight up serial killer.
And then he kidnapped a little kid.
Yeah,
because that's all the kid has no
it's
parents.
like, oh, I had to protect him. His parents were gone. Yeah, because you murdered them. Nah. That's not. It was the vampires, you see.
You murdered the whole town.
Only humans.
So wait a minute. So you're telling me around this town, there's just a bunch of dead humans with wooden stakes specifically through their heart. So it's not even like a hidden murder. It's straight up right through the heart murder. All right, cool. Great.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then, according to their logic, which it seems like if you pull the stake out, they're going to come back to life, though, right? Because that's why you can only use one per vampire.
I mean, listen, I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of vampire movies. There's a good Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, but even that, they stabbed Mr. Burns and he disintegrated, and the stake was left, I think. So
yeah,
all right, pretty sure.
No, I don't think we saw anyone disintegrate. They just turned back into humans.
Do you know? I didn't.
Their eyes stopped glowing. Their teeth seemed to recede.
I didn't even connect that, but now that you're saying it, you're right. They just. Wow, that makes this movie super.
It's got to be a comedy, right?
Yeah, I think I like it more because of this discussion. That was a good laugh. Just murdered everybody and then kidnapped the kid.
He murdered. I was thinking that at the end, everyone was dead, like almost this entire town of Jerusalem's lot, except for the young kid and the stranger.
Yeah,
like...
both technically strangers, right? Because they both just came to the town.
Correct. That was the other thing. Was more like it didn't 100% play out where he was coming back to his hometown, right? Like you would assume him coming back to his hometown would come into play. Like, you know, everybody's at the he knows how to navigate the town.
Yeah,
right? Something, but that didn't, as far as I know, that didn't come into play.
Or the whole story about how his parents were killed, like that didn't pan out to nothing. Because then it's like, why'd you tell us twice? Like, I don't need to know that.
What, they got killed in a car accident, right?
Yeah, like that amounted to nothing. I was like, oh, maybe this will tie into something.
And like most of the people in the town seem to barely remember him, and just like viewed him as an outsider. Like people from that town did not play into it hardly at all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what was the point of that plot?
And even the people he befriends are people that he didn't know as a child. Like the girl and the teacher are people who are like, "Hey, nice to meet you."
Very welcoming.
She didn't know that he was on the book jacket. Like, maybe this maybe was a comedy. I'm gonna write in the IMDb and be like, add comedy to this description. I do want to mention one thing that I mentioned at the top, though, that I did like, which was I did like how some of the stuff was shot, and they had a lot of really cool transitions. Like, just to put, like, the business card to the stairs, like, the book to the peanut butter and jelly. I like the silhouette and the colors. Like, I thought, even all the vampires on the roof at the end, which was a cool shot that didn't really pan out, but... so I did. I'll give him some credit since we're kind of bashing on this. I did kind of like how it was shot. I'll give him that. I did like how they put a stake completely through the bad vampire's mouth at the end. Would that have killed him? Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you're trying to kill this thing, and you should technically only have one shot. Why would you aim for the mouth and not the heart from the back? Like what? I didn't understand that logic. And then I swear to God, he missed at the end because it looked like he got his belly. I'm like, is that where the heart is? Like, what happened?
Or he could have used his multiple stakes because they're not reusable. One in the
Oh
mouth,
yeah.
one in the mouth, and one in the back of the heart. Can you get
Like-
the heart from the back?
I'm assuming
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're strong enough,
Don't
right? Just
care.
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't killed a vampire, so I don't know.
Vampire Slayer.
Oh, they did it on Buffy. All right, well then you can. You can do that.
I mean, that's canon.
Wait, Buffy's canon, or the fact that you can just kill them from behind is canon?
Buffy's
Both.
canon.
Okay. All right.
That's where all our knowledge is coming from.
All of our vampire
Not
knowledge-
angel, not angel.
Not angel.
Only Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, oh man. All right. Well, my question is there any? I said something I liked. What else did we miss? I mean, we talked about everything. I think. I don't know. No, I always say that, and then there's something we missed.
I mean,
We'll
I already
figure it
brought
out.
up the thing that I liked, which was that they all turned back into humans.
That is awesome. Now that I'm thinking
That-
about it,
That is.
you know what the post-credit scene should have been?
Hmm.
Like an outside sheriff. Oh wait, did the sheriff leave? Did the sheriff leave the town? Right? Didn't he flee in the car? Let's say he did. Just for my joke to work. I think the sheriff that fled comes back to town, and he just arrives to everybody murdered.
You do know that he died, right?
No, for
You
my
saw-
joke to work. Did he die?
Oh.
I thought he left the town, or he was trying.
He
to leave
did.
town.
He
Oh.
tried to leave, and then they threw him through the window at the church.
Oh, that was him. In the
Yeah.
trailer you see it. You're right. That was him.
Like, oh, what happened to the sheriff? Oh, he was useless. Like, that was a great
That's
line,
true.
guys.
He was a useless sheriff. But for my
I don't
joke
want-
to work, I need a sheriff to come back post-credit scene to see all the murdered dad. Like, and then he's like, "Well, now what do I do?" And he's
No, the joke would still work. Why can't it just be a different
different sheriff.
a different
I mean,
sheriff
at
from
some
somewhere
point,
else?
Some law enforcement is gonna have to show up to this town full of dead people.
Salem's Lot 2. Just the clean.
Sheriff come just screaming, "What happened here? Oh my god!"
You guys are like, oh, think of all the paperwork.
I
we're
was
gonna
gonna.
have to do on this."
It's always about the
The
paperwork.
paperwork.
It's always about the paperwork. All right. Well, I can't wait to tell you the ratings. Super excited
Oh,
about
it's
this.
got to be very high.
All right. So, IMDb on average right now we're at a 5.7 out of 10. All right, not terrible. Critics are at a 48%, and the audience is at a 41%. I don't know if everybody knows Walter's rating right now, but I have to assume everyone's closer on the side of Ryan, where they were like, "Shit, I only remember 15%. I guess I'll give it like half of a rating."
And you tried to watch it multiple times, right?
So I rewatched maybe like 20 minutes of it because I was like, man, I don't remember a lot of this movie. I should try and rewatch some of it. So I started it at the point where I think right when they're at the
I can't remember.
drive-in. So I saw like the scene where like she's explaining everyone's in the town and everything, and then like
Oh, that pointless
maybe,
scene,
like
yeah.
15, 20 minutes after that. And like again, I saw like bits and pieces of it throughout the whole film. But like I don't know what I was doing exactly. I just was like in the middle of other stuff and like. But usually I can multitask pretty well. And this one just did not.
Well, I was gonna
grab me at
say,
all.
multitask or not, if a movie grabs you, you'll stop your other task and be like, "Oh, I want to pay attention to this."
And this is your genre too. This is
I
like
was
something
gonna
I
say,
thought
this
you were
is
to
your-
coming in.
Horror comedy. Yeah, that's my jam.
Horror.
No, horror is definitely, you know more about that than all of us, and probably watch more.
So before we
Although,
get into
I
it,
haven't seen this is the only version of Salem's Lot that I've seen. Which if I had had more time this week, I would have watched the original and
I said the same
paid
thing.
attention to this one.
So if anyone out there has seen the original and let us know that it's way better than this, that'd be cool. Maybe.
And if it's way better, why did you remake it?
That's true.
Oh, dude, they only remake things that are good. I would love if they would remake things that were bad, but they never do.
Yeah, we just gave them Hollywood an idea, but they're not
Well,
going to run with it.
it's remake things that were bad but have a good story instead of remake things that
Exactly, like remake things that have like a really cool premise or a cool, idea, story, but were poorly executed. They
So,
don't
And
take
hire
things that were
us to
already
fix
done
it.
well, and then they make it worse.
but
And then hire us as producers so we can be like, no, 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 that makes no sense. Fix this. This is what you got to do instead. And then we got a great movie.
Stephen King books, I feel like, do get remade
a lot.
from time to time, and like, it's rare that either version is great. I feel like.
I'm trying to think. There's
can't
been
even-
some good ones, but even like The Shining, he hated. Like it wasn't even a good remake, like a good, adaptation of his book. But there have been good ones.
Cujo?
Cujo,
Pet
Misery,
Sematary.
Pet Sematary. I mean,
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery they've remade like 4 more times, right?
Yeah, the first one's good.
So, all right. Well, let's get back to this one, and we can talk about horror to end this. But what's your banana rating out of 10? And any final thoughts on this movie, and then we'll pivot to end it. I'm gonna go with Walter, and maybe we'll see, just to give Ryan some like context. Before...
Yeah, what was this movie about?
Zombies and Frankenstein. That's what this was
Okay.
about. In Salem's Lot.
In Salem's Lot.
This is a movie that I do not think you should watch. I do not recommend it. Even though when we talked about it and how it was murder and kidnapping at the end, that really makes the movie better. But overall, there's just too many issues. I went in with saying it was going to be a 2 because I didn't like it. But because we, created our own ending, I'm going to give it a 2.5 because I got a good laugh out of it.
Our ending's way better.
Much better.
I like that sometimes you change your rating of the movie based on your enjoyment of our conversation.
I mean, that's how it should be, right? I mean, I'm not giving it a 10, so like.
Well, it's actually funny because with or without our conversation, that's how movies work, I think. Sometimes you'll like a movie for a reason completely alternate of the movie, or you'll hate it for the same reason. So,
Like we talked about, like how horrible this movie was, and you're like, yeah, but that was fun, so I'm up in the rating.
Yeah, but I'm not like 66 where I'm like, oh, I hated movie and it was fun, so I'm gonna go to a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely been guilty. I just enjoy you're like, man, there's nothing to like about this movie, but I enjoyed how we crapped on it. So
Yeah.
let's up that a little bit.
Hey, there's got to be other people like us that would like to watch it and crap on it too, so
Yeah.
they can relate.
I
Put it
would
this
like
way.
to watch it one day.
I was gonna say, put it this way: you would have never had this conversation and had these laughs without watching this movie.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go.
He's taking credit.
I'm taking credit because otherwise I'm gonna get completely
Otherwise-
shit on for picking a movie that no one
You
likes.
just continue picking bad movies.
Our conversations are better though when they're bad movies.
That is very true.
Yeah, it gives us a little more to talk about.
All right, Ryan the Lion. Rate what you remember.
Yeah, my hands are tied here. I saw maybe 30% of this movie. I saw a scene in a drive-up movie theater. I saw a familiar that I thought was a vampire driving around. He died, I guess. I didn't know that. Yeah, this is I don't know if this was a forgettable movie or if I just like blacked out throughout this movie.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna give it a 5 because I remember very little about it. I don't really know. I kind of learned what happened here. Thank you, Walter, for explaining almost all of it to me.
I feel pretty bad about that though. That means I actually paid attention.
You paid the most attention of anyone I've ever met. Like you did a great job. I know how
Makes
much
me
you
feel
love
dirty.
this movie.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was pretty bad.
I'm gonna have to make a graphic that says, "Remember, a 5 is the worst movie you can give because you'll forget about it." But that's why you
I
give
forgot
it
about
5.
it while I was watching it.
That's how great this movie is.
I mean, I'm gonna
Multiple
still-
times.
Listen, I said earlier I like the cinematography. I like some of the shots. I thought it was cool. As a vampire movie, eh. Like, it had all the vampire tropes, but not really. Plus, we kind of poked a lot of holes in the ending, which was wild. So, I don't know. I was like at a 4, but for the look and the fun conversation, I'll give it a 4.5. Just, I mean,
That's still being generous though. So
I know I'm always the most generous, but at least I'm not the highest, I guess, because of the 5.
technically, you are.
Oh, but technically I am.
Yeah.
I know.
5 is the lowest rating.
You're like, that it makes no sense. It does if you think about it.
Oh,
Who
man.
remembers second place? Nobody. It's always gold or bronze. You're the best or you're horrible. Which one is it?
I'm gonna rewatch this movie though. See what happens.
I'm hoping you come in like next week or something. Like, yo,
I figured it all out.
it's like Walter. What the hell were you watching? Everything you said was wrong.
that'd be
Like,
sick.
I
what?
really hope it's just a different movie. It's like
It's like it wasn't even about vampires. What are you talking about?
no in a trunk. I don't know where that came from.
I hope Salem's Lot, which should have been about witches, is really about witches, and we all watched the movie. We have no idea what it was.
Well, that's like it's like a nickname of the town, right? That's like
Jerusalem.
Yeah.
It's
And-
Jerusalem's Lot, but didn't they say like everybody calls it Salem's Lot for some reason?
No, I thought they said everyone calls it the Lot, right? Didn't the guy say everyone calls it the Lot? Which
I don't know. I didn't see this movie, so
Well, they kept saying the lot. They didn't say Salem's lot.
Exactly.
Right? They just kept saying the lot.
I could have sworn that they said that at some point. Maybe I just made that up in my head.
So, all right, here's how we'll end it. Before I got some tangents on some other movies I watched this week, but before we do, we have a homework assignment for Ryan, which is while watching this, and like write down all the answers to our questions, and let us know.
I'm crossing my fingers that he will fix everything and that we didn't see, or I'm 100% incorrect with everything.
I just hope that it's a completely different movie than what you described. I might just watch a completely different movie.
You're gonna watch the version prior to this, and then tell us, and we're gonna
I'll
oh,
watch
that
the
actually sounds really
series
good.
with Rob Lowe.
With Rob Lowe.
I'll be like, guys, Rob Lowe was great in this. I don't know what you were talking about.
Like, wait, he was in it?
Oh man. All right. Well, listen, if you agree with us, then you should like and share and follow and send it to other people who are definitely going to agree with us. If you disagree with us, I say it every time, please let us know, because if you disagree with us, I want to know why. But still like and share and follow us for more. And oh man, that's all I got. Go watch a better vampire movie like Renfield. That's my recommendation.
Blade.
Man, I'm just gonna watch this one again.
Blade. Tune in
Blade
next
Trip.
week. Tune in next week while Ryan tells us all the answers to our burning questions.
I might watch Blade.
Thumbs up.
Blade Trinity.
Oh,
Quack you next
Blade
time.
Trinity. Hands down the best of the Blade movies.
I'll come back and describe that movie next week.
We're like, oh, that's awesome. I don't remember Ryan Reynolds
Guys,
being in
Ryan
it.
Reynolds was in this. Triple H.
Wow.
Patton Oswalt. Come on. Star-studded cast.
Best vampire movie ever.